Welcome into NFL on 365 Sports. I'm your host, Grayson, and today we're talking about NFC breakout offensive players. Last week we did the AFC. This week we're going to talk about some of the new faces, maybe old faces, who are going to emerge for some of these NFC teams. Let's do it. Welcome in, everyone. Today, of course, we're talking about breakout offensive players in the NFC. So today, how about we start with the Cowboys? Anyone like the Cowboys? Let's start with them. My breakout player for the Dallas Cowboys this year is Tony Pollard. I think this is a pretty obvious one, but also a highly likely one. Zeke has been banged up, dealing with injuries. He's getting older. He's got a lot of tread on his tires, and I think Tony Pollard could be a guy that comes in and really becomes a star in this offense. We've seen him have very high levels of production running the football. He catches the ball really well as well. While I think Zeke will still have a role, I think by season's end, Tony Pollard could end up being the guy that takes over the Cowboys' backfield. Next up is the Giants. This is a weird offense, right? I mean, they're trying to find an identity. They have Saquon Barkley. They have a lot of weapons. They've invested a lot of money in guys like Kenny Golladay, Sterling Shepard. They're trying to figure out if their quarterback, Daniel Jones, is the QB of the future. And all that being said, I still think their most intriguing offensive weapon is Kadarius Toney. And really it's because of 2 weeks where he just put up absolutely massive numbers. He looked like a guy who was on his way to becoming a superstar, and then he just couldn't help but get injured. And then he also dealt with COVID as well, dealt with all kinds of just these really random injuries that just kept popping up. And then obviously there were trade rumors in the offseason. So I don't know how it's all going to play out, but what I do know is when he has been on the field, he's an absolutely electric playmaker for that offense. Next is the Eagles. This is an interesting team, right? The Eagles at the beginning of the year, they relied on Jalen Hurts a lot. They were throwing the football a ton. They go out, they get A.J. Brown, they have Devonta Smith, they have Dallas Goedert at tight end. But at the end of the year, they really started to run the football a whole lot more. And while Jalen Hurts' numbers didn't look great, it really helped him become a much better quarterback. So I think they're going to rely on the run game again this year. And I think Kenneth Gainwell is going to be a guy to keep an eye on. He's a second-year running back, was so productive when he was on the field a year ago, but he just never could solidify himself in the rotation with Jordan Howard and Boston Scott. And so now I think this year Kenny Gainwell takes over that backup role to complement Miles Sanders in the Eagles offense. Next up is the Washington Commanders. I'm going with rookie wide receiver Jahan Dotson. He's been a guy that everyone continues to talk about throughout camp, just so electric out of Penn State, and a guy that just seems like he's going to fit in really well with what Ron Rivera and the entire staff is trying to do there. Terry McLaurin is in contract negotiations, so he hasn't even been at OTAs. So Jahan Dotson is just kind of absorbing all of these first-team reps, which is going to be great for him heading into the season as they're working in a new quarterback in Carson Wentz. Next up is the Chicago Bears. Pretty easy one for me with the Bears. It's Cole Kmet, the tight end. He's a guy who really looked good at the end of the year and is going to get a ton of targets in this offense. Overall, it's really Darnell Mooney, the run game, and Cole Kmet. That's what the Bears are going to focus on next season to try to complement Justin Fields in his second season. The Lions are up next, and I'm going to go with the guy who's just kind of being overlooked. And I'm going to kind of hedge my bet here. Obviously, a lot of people are excited about Jameson Williams, and for good reason. But I think they're just forgetting that Amon-Ra St. Brown had such a good year at the end of the season. I mean, he looked amazing to finish the year. And while I don't think he'll have that same level of production, I do think as Jameson Williams tries to work his way back from injury, I think the Lions are going to be very cautious with him because they know this is not the year that they're going to go try to win a Super Bowl. They're going to have to find a quarterback in next year's draft class, and so I think they're going to take their time with Jameson, which means Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to have a very productive season next year. Next up is the Packers, and this one is pretty obvious, yet I don't think many people are quite all in on this guy quite yet, and it's Allen Lazard. I think he's the guy that's going to be the dude that replaces some of what Davante Adams did for many years for the Packers. I know a lot of people are really high on Christian Watson, the rookie, and obviously Aaron Jones is going to get a ton of targets as well. But I think Allen Lazard is going to be a guy who ends up being a 1,000-yard receiver, 6-7 touchdown guy, and he's going to be a guy that I feel like Aaron Rodgers will really trust in this offense. Next up is the Vikings. How about a breakout tight end, Irv Smith Jr.? He was supposed to be the breakout last year, and it didn't quite go as planned, as he got injured, didn't play at all last season, and now he's back at camp this year. And with all the attention that's going to be placed on Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen and Dalvin Cook and Alexander Mattison, I think Irv Smith is going to just kind of squeak out a role that many people maybe don't think he's going to have, and I think his role is going to end up being massive, especially in the red zone and especially across the middle of the field in play action instances. And so I think he's going to have a great season for the Vikings next year. Next is the Falcons. How about a rookie? How about Drake London? The big wide receiver prospect. Someone has to emerge opposite Kyle Pitts. Last year it was Russell Gage. This year I think it will be Drake London. He's got a huge frame. I think he's going to be a factor in the red zone, and he's just going to get a ton of targets as the Falcons are probably going to be trailing an awful lot this season. The Panthers are up next, and how about Christian McCaffrey's backup / 1-2 punch, Deonta Foreman? He had a great year last year for the Titans, really came on strong and showed that he could be a kind of a featured back in the NFL. Now, he won't have that role in Carolina, but I do think he'll have a goal line role. I think he'll have a potential early down role, first or second down at times, while spelling Christian McCaffrey in that Panthers backfield. Next is the Saints, another rookie, Chris Olave. I think he's going to be fantastic for this offense next year just because he's going to be a target hog. They have Alvin Kamara, they have Michael Thomas, but MT has been hurt a ton, and I think because of that, I'm very concerned that Michael Thomas is going to be able to stay on the field for an entire season, and therefore Chris Olave is just going to kind of be the only guy in this offense who can make plays in the receiving game outside of Alvin Kamara. Next up is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm going to go with Rachaad White here. And this was a close one for me because I know many people are going to talk about Russell Gage this offseason, and for good reason. But I think with Leonard Fournette showing up to camp overweight, questions about if he's going to be able to get his weight down and stay healthy, I think Rachaad White, the rookie running back, could come in, provide some pass catching out of the backfield for Tom Brady, which in New England he loved with James White, Rex Burkhead, guys like that. I think Rachaad White could fill that role for the Buccaneers this season. Arizona Cardinals are up next. I'm going with Rondale Moore. I think this is a great spot for him this year with DeAndre Hopkins being out for a little bit, Christian Kirk moving on. I think Rondale is going to get a ton of targets early and finally have an opportunity to prove himself at the NFL level. I'm expecting that second-year breakout for Rondale Moore. For the Rams, I'm going to go with Cam Akers. He was out all of last year until the playoffs. I think many people are concerned with how he finished the season coming back from the Achilles. Well, guess what? He came back way too early from the Achilles. It's honestly a miracle that he was able to play in the playoffs. But when he did play in the playoffs, while he wasn't great, he still got fed basically 20 carries every single game. I think Akers is going to look much more explosive now that he's a few more months from that Achilles injury. Next up is the 49ers, going with Trey Lance here. This is a pretty obvious one. He's getting handed the keys to the car, and Kyle Shanahan is going to use him a ton. And I think Trey Lance, his running ability, his passing ability, it's all going to come together for the San Francisco 49ers this year. And finally, the Seattle Seahawks. I'm going with rookie running back Ken Walker. I think he's going to come in and spell Rashad Penny quite a bit. I think he could eventually take over that backfield, especially since Penny has dealt with so many injuries throughout his entire career. I think Ken Walker could be a very nice guy to come in and provide a lot of pop in that Seahawks offense, which they need. They need more weapons, to be honest. So that's it. That's the entire NFC. Those are my breakout offensive players for the 2022 season. I'll be back next week to possibly talk about some of the defensive playmakers who could have an impact in the AFC and NFC as well. But for this week, this is Grayson Grunhafer on NFL on 365 Sports.